Welcome back, adventurers! I'm your host, R.R. Slugger, and today we continue our trek into China with set 7413, Passage of Jun-Chi. Johnny Thunder returns as our protagonist, decked out in his most iconic attire. It's interesting to see him armed with a rifle rather than his trusty revolver, but perhaps he feels he'll need more firepower when exploring alone today. Standing as the last set in a trio of monster encounters the gang has had to face, the Passage of Jun-Chi might just be the most visually appealing of the three. Depicting the front facade of a Chinese temple, this final leg of the expedition is home to some of my favorite architecture in the series. Positioned on a small, light gray 8x16 base plate, the Passage exterior makes great use of both new and returning elements. We've certainly seen these tall pillar pieces before, as this mold was introduced specifically for the Orient expedition. Some of the older molds put to good use here include the various slope bricks and arches, giving the structure its shape. The lattice element paired with cylinder bricks on top completes the look. Indeed, the Passage of Jun-Chi really does a good job of evoking the source material that inspired it, despite the limited brick palette of the era. Some of the smaller details are also quite strong. The use of trans yellow minifigure heads for Chinese lanterns is a building technique that still holds up today. These printed banners on either side of the structure add that extra touch to really sell the setting. As one of LEGO's first forays into the architecture of the East, I think the Orient expedition puts its best foot forward. Perhaps even more eye-catching is the color scheme used throughout this wave. The harsh contrast of red and black is complemented well by the softer shades of tan and sand green. I find this aesthetic direction to be really satisfying, and the Passage of Jun-Chi just whets the appetite for more. As we approach closer, we can see a gem-encrusted pedestal illuminated by torchlight. Time to bust out our Orient Expedition gem counter again. Johnny had better be careful though. Removing this gem from its perch might have unintended consequences. In a flash, the entire central platform spins around to reveal the legendary lion dog of China, Jun-Chi. Standing as the third in a trio of mythological creatures that the gang has had to encounter, Jun-Chi is certainly the most colorful. The stark contrast between red and black is back again, but it's also met with some blue, white, and gold printed accents. Physically, Jun-Chi seems to resemble traditional Chinese shishi, sometimes mistakenly called foo dogs in the West. These guardian lion statues would ward off evil spirits and were most commonly seen in pairs at the entrance to buildings. Though the practice of erecting these statues became less common at the end of the dynasties by 1916, their history within China stretches back thousands of years. As for Jun-Chi itself, it seems we have another Taigura situation on our hands here. While the physical inspirations are obvious, the mythological roots are more of an abstraction. Unlike the Yeti we saw on Everest, the legend of Jun-Chi appears to be a largely fictional construct. Still, though the creature before us is fictional, it doesn't mean the danger it presents to Johnny isn't real. While the other monster encounter sets have featured Dr. Kilroy with his magnifying glass and Pippin with her camera, I don't think Johnny is planning on running from his foe. I never got the impression that the gang were actually killing the monsters they came up against, but with the Passage of Jun-Chi, I think this impression is fairly unavoidable. I'd imagine if Jun-Chi knew what it was signing up for, it would have come packing heat as well. While not quite a pair of revolvers, the set does give us a couple of polearms though, another mold created specifically for the Orient expedition. Resembling a spear with two crescent moon blades on either side of the tip, this weapon seems to most closely match a certain Chinese halberd design known as a Fang Tian Ji. The crescent moon blades aren't affixed in the same manner, but this is the closest I was able to find. The Fang Tian Ji is, in and of itself, a bit of a legendary weapon of Three Kingdoms fame. Military General Lu Bu is often seen depicted with this particular halberd, though it's believed that the real historical figure did not use this weapon. That being said, polearms were a common sight in the hands of infantry during his time, and the Fang Tian Ji could have been one of them. As it appears in Orient Expedition though, these would be purely decorative elements. China was well into its Republican period by 1925, and polearms used in a military context would have been a distant memory. Still, I wouldn't want to be caught on the business end of that thing. Like the other monster encounter sets, the Passage of Jun-Chi comes with 3 cards for the Orient Expedition board game, and the Fang Tian Ji is among them. Unlike most of the other weapons we've seen up until this point though, this card doesn't enhance your character's strength, but rather their luck. It's an interesting choice, though I suppose I too would feel lucky if I came across one of these in my adventures. The second card is for Jun-Chi itself. Heeeeere and the Yeti featured a skill distribution of 3-4-6 and 3-2-6 respectively, but Jun-Chi opts for a more uniform 4-3-4 instead. This puts it proportionately on par with the Yeti, but both are working with 2 less points than Heeeeere. I'm not sure why this is, but evidently Heeeeere has earned its stripes. The final card is for the Passage encounter itself, and this one is probably the most dysfunctional addition to the game yet. The skill thresholds are all set at reasonable levels, with either an 8 luck or 7 strength roll needed to beat the challenge. The problem lies within the bypass section of the card. You might have noticed it earlier, but the torches on either side of the structure are attached via a ratcheting hinge joint. Lowering them both prior to extracting the gem prevents the platform from rotating around, keeping the adventurers safe from Jun-Chi. As a play feature, this interaction works fine. It's maybe not as fun or impressive as the ones we saw in Tibet or India, but it's completely serviceable. The problem is in its integration within the board game. Remember, each challenge bypass prior to this one has required an item to be wielded by the player. The relevant item has always been pictured on the card in order to let you know what you need to succeed. But in the case of the Passage of Jun-Chi, no such indication has been made. Instead, we're left with a picture of the play feature in action and a general sense of just figure it out on the part of the board game designers. As is, this part of the card is simply non-functional within the rules of the game. However, if we want to be generous, we could imagine that the Fang Tian Ji is the bypass item, allowing you to topple the torches from a safe distance. I don't know, we're left grasping at straws with this one. Overall, I think the Passage of Jun-Chi is a set that values display over play. When compared to its peers in Orient Expedition, I certainly think this build looks the best on a shelf. With its fairly mediocre play feature, it really doesn't do much for me beyond its aesthetics. In my mind, Heeeere's Roar has the weakest visual design but the strongest play feature. The Passage of Jun-Chi has the opposite traits, and the Yeti's hideout lands squarely in the middle. Whichever you personally prefer will likely be determined by how important each of these individual aspects are to you. One thing that both Heeeere's Roar and the Yeti's hideout each had going for them was a pair of solid alternate builds. Do you think we'll see the same thing with the Passage of Jun-Chi? Well, I'll let you be the judge. Here's what we're working with. The first build appears to depict a decorated arch and stairway leading to the mighty Jun-Chi. I think this model actually works better if we treat Jun-Chi as an inanimate statue, but you decide how you want the adventure to unfold. The archway retains many of the details of the main model, including these Chinese lanterns. It also finds a use for the pair Fang Tian Ji as decorative elements on the back of the build. Beyond these details, however, there's no play feature to speak of, perhaps a result of the relatively low play potential of the set itself. I like the look of this facade, but that's about all I can say about it. Your mileage may vary. The second alternate build stands head and shoulders above the previous one as a towering gate with a gemstone at its base. Again, many returning decorative elements are on full display here, fleshing out the archway with a ton of detail. Johnny and Jun-Chi get a little bit more to do in this one as they duke it out on the rotating platform at the base of the gate. This is admittedly a play feature, but I can't really say it's a good one. There are some interesting ideas here, but I just don't think the set provides the materials needed to pull this off convincingly. Personally, I think you're not missing much if you choose to skip these alternate builds altogether. So that concludes our look at the Passage of Jun-Chi. Except, I still have one final question. What exactly is the Passage of Jun-Chi? Given the name, I think we're meant to interpret this as a sort of guarded entrance to a secret passageway. The Orient Expedition online comic, as well as the story depicted in LEGO magazines, insist that this set is actually located underground, beneath the Dragon Fortress. I can understand why they tried to do this in order to allow for more set cohesion within the story, but come on. When I look at this box art, my first thought isn't, oh yeah, this totally takes place underground. Even the set itself seems to contradict this idea. It features a roof design not at all dissimilar to that of the Dragon Fortress. Does this mean that the Dragon Fortress is also located underground? I think the choice of location in the story was one of convenience, not a diegetic through line from the toy itself. In my mind, I think the Passage of Jun-Chi represents the entrance to the palace grounds. I could see it being flanked by walls on either side, surrounding the fortress and forcing the gang to encounter Jun-Chi in order to proceed. That feels like a much more natural setting for this model. What do you think? Regardless of where it takes place, the Passage of Jun-Chi represents the final time we'll see the gang before we get to the Dragon Fortress. And we haven't even seen the gang yet! Indeed, Johnny Thunder and Sam Sinister are incredibly overrepresented within the sets of this wave. Let's just take a quick look back at the journey so far, and I think you'll see what I mean. In India, Johnny was featured in both the Kabaya set and the small introductory set, but then we wouldn't see him again until the Scorpion Palace. Meanwhile, Dr. Kilroy got the Monster Encounter set, and Pippin shared the large transport set with Sam Sinister. In Tibet, Dr. Kilroy was featured in the Kabaya set, Sam Sinister got the small introductory set, and Pippin was included in the Monster Encounter set. Johnny shared the large transport set with Dr. Kilroy and the Temple of Mount Everest with Sam. In China, Johnny and Sam just trade sets back and forth until we get to the Dragon Fortress. Not only does this relegate the supporting cast even further to the sidelines, but it also locks them behind the most expensive set of the series. Keep in mind that these are region-exclusive designs for both Pippin and Dr. Kilroy, so it's a real shame that more fans couldn't have got their hands on them. Luckily though, these torso prints are actually just reused designs from their first adventure in Egypt, so they're actually quite easy to put together secondhand. Also, just to be clear, I'm under no grand delusion that Pippin and Dr. Kilroy need 100% parity with Johnny Thunder when it comes to set inclusions. Obviously, they're side characters, and putting the main character in a set is just going to appeal to more customers. I get it. Still, this final leg of the adventure seems to take that mentality to the extreme, and I think it's worse for it. Anyways, we've still got one set to go before we get to the Dragon Fortress, so we'll have to see what Sam Sinister has got in store for us next time. Thanks for watching, everyone. I've been your host, R.R. Slugger, and I'll see you next time for another adventure.